Sarah, can you hear me? Okay. I just wanted to double check after last time.
Hello, Tim Jensen.
Hello, Amy Jo. How are you?
Good to
Good.
see you.
Yeah.
You made Lori go away when you came on.
I did what?
Lori was on right before you came on.
Amy Jo, how are you?
Well, I can't see you. There you are. Do you only get to see? I never do Zoom. I always do Google Meets. I never do Zoom.
Oh.
So do you?
I'm
do you
good.
only-
How are you? You look like you're at the district office today.
I am.
All right.
I typically come in.
Okay. So everybody knows we're going to be posting the live stream link shortly. So all conversations will be online now.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are the Owatonna School Board. It's Monday. It's the 14th of December, 5:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Continue to be in our virtual format. I'll ask Eric to do the roll call for us.
Okay, Mark,
I'm here.
Lori,
Here.
Jolene,
Here.
Tim,
Here.
Nikki,
Here.
Christina,
I'm here.
and I myself am here, and Daniela are
Here.
all present.
Second, if Eric is able to turn his computer. There we go. We've got just a flag in the background, and as you are all First item tonight would be to approve our agenda. I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? I am looking around. I don't see anything. Once again, Eric, I'll ask you to do the roll call vote on
and
this,
Mark,
please.
Lori, Lori,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
and I myself's an aye. 7-0, pass.
Motion carries. Thank you. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad for our mission moment tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Tonight, it is my honor, as part of our regular board meeting, we honor staff or students that are truly living up to the mission that we have set as a school district, and certainly within our commitments. Of course, one of our commitments is safe and caring community, and I would be hard pressed to find a better group of people to honor this month. And so I'm going to share my screen here real quick, just so that you can have a bit of knowledge around this. Pardon me while I toggle to a couple of slides here. I think everyone can see that now. I'll just gonna go to the quote and then I'll go from there. We cannot educate children who are not healthy, and we cannot keep them healthy if they're not educated. There has to be a marriage between health and education. That's by Dr. Jocelyn Elders. Our health services staff within this district are second to none. And this pandemic environment that we've been living in has put all of us to the task. But I would tell you that without the work that these individuals are doing as school health services staff and school nurses, we would not be able to function as a school district right now. And certainly I want to call to the attention of our school board and anyone that's listening, the leadership of Amy Jo Havelka. She's not only our health services supervisor, but is also our district COVID coordinator, and has done a remarkable job of building systems and creating trust within our system that has helped us navigate through these very uncharted waters. I just want to name them. I think it's important that our community, as well as certainly our board members, know that these individuals, Julie Brown, Judy Wiersma, Renee Sandsmark, Amelia Howell, Stacy Kirsch, Holly Heathman, Anna Durst, and Annette Hansen, have added such value. And I don't think there's been a time in school history where people know their nurses better than now. And so I just wanted to lift them up to our board and community tonight. I can't thank them enough for their tireless efforts for really making this pandemic go as smoothly as it can. Just a couple of comments. You cannot imagine the amount of case and contact tracing that this group has done to make sure that we're mitigating this the best we can. In addition to putting their own health on the line when students have been COVID positive in school, as well as staff members. And again, I know that we talk about heroes that are in the healthcare industry. These are heroes for ISD 761. Thank you for everything you've done for us and that you will continue to do to help keep our students and staff safe. So that is the mission moment tonight. And I would open it up for any questions. Amy Jo Havelka and others have joined us tonight, and I didn't ask them to say anything tonight, so I'm going to be honest and true to my word, but I see a few of you on my screen, and again, first of all, it's great to see you, because I don't get to see you very often anymore, but it's just, we're so honored and pleased that you serve in this capacity in our school district and make our school district safe. So again, I'll open it up, Mr. Chair, to members of the board for any comment or questions.
Looking through my screen, I'm not sure that I see anybody that is stepping forward to say anything. Lori, did you have something to say?
Yeah, just briefly. I mean, I don't want to just pile on, but you're right, Mark. I don't think we do imagine. I don't think any of us have walked in the shoes that these folks have done. So I just want to thank them publicly. And yeah, when the dust settles on this, I'd love to hear about the hours and hours and hours and some of the trials and tribulations. But for now, we'll just show our gratitude.
I'll echo Lori's sentiments, and I'm humored somewhat that when all of you went through nursing school, did you ever have anything in contact tracing to do with your education?
We did not, Mark. We didn't know
Amy
anything.
Jo.
We knew nothing about close contacts, incubation periods, infectious periods, none of it. So it's all been learning, and the nurses have really stepped up to take on the task. They've been relentless in their passion for maintaining the health and safety of the students and staff in this district.
On behalf of the board and on behalf of the community, you come in contact with probably 1/5 of the population in Owatonna on a daily basis, and we can't thank you enough for everything that you've done. Thank you. Mr. Elstead, that was a great choice for Mission Moment tonight. Thank you. We're going to move on. I'm going to turn to my right. I'm going to look over here at Sarah one last time to see if there were any late arrivals with public forum. Does not appear as that was the case, so we will continue to move on. Item 6 tonight is for general information. I'll take them one by one. Does anybody have a question for Mr. Elstad or members of his staff for anything that appeared in the enrollment report in tonight's agenda? I don't see anything. I'm going to move on here as well to the City of Owatonna. There was some tax increment financing information that was a part of your board packet. There are a couple of projects that are happening in downtown Owatonna. One is an apartment complex and one is a hotel. That does involve tax increment financing. It does impact us. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention that I think it's on a January 5th meeting. Thanks, Eric, for the city council meeting. And between now and then, to the extent that any of you would have any questions or you'd like to know more information before that particular informational meeting takes place, we'd be happy to try and get that information for you. I'm going to move on to board forum and kind of go around the horn. Does anybody, just generally speaking, does anybody have anything for board forum tonight?
Yes, sorry, had to get my button unmuted. I know that this is Christina's last meeting tonight, and I would just like to thank her for her years of service to the school district. And I have thoroughly enjoyed working with you and learning about how you think and your influences. And I'm going to desperately miss you on the policy committee, just so you're aware of that. But thank you so very much, Christina. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Jolene. I know that probably some of the other board members would have some things to say here as well. I'd open it up and make it available.
Well, I think back to our when Christina and I got on the board together 4 years ago, we drove up to school board training at the convention in a blizzard. And that was our first get to know you event. And I've enjoyed thoroughly the 4 years that we've had together on the board.
It was very enjoyable having you on our end of the loop over here for the school board these last 4 years. And you'll be missed because you always brought a bright, colorful change to the boardroom.
I guess I would like to also add, Christina, I will very much miss you as we kind of learned in some of our classes that we've done. I don't think our personalities, I'm generally a little more outgoing than yourself, and you have helped me understand that not everybody thinks the same way, and yet every time you speak, I learn something, and I'm going to greatly miss you.
Thank you, Christina, for your service. I too, I particularly have appreciated your perspectives. I think as part of our public library system, you know, it's such a great touch point with a lot of folks in our community. And I think our board has really benefited and our district has benefited from that insight and perspective that you brought. So thank you for that. And thank you.
Christina, I also, some of the words that came to mind when I was thinking about this being your last meeting, that you're just a very thoughtful, you're very contemplative, you're a careful thinker, you're a reader, and that community perspective that you brought by sitting at the desk at the public library, and just the number of people and the number of perspectives that you were able to bring that community eye to the board level was just a very valuable part of your being a part of this school board. We all thank you. We're going to miss you. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad for a couple of thoughts here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Christina, I just wanted to echo all of the things that have been said, but as a superintendent, when you're working with a school board, you have 7 people that employ you, and you have been one of those 7. You have questioned me at times, but you have also supported me at times when you needed support. I think back to some of the events that have happened in our school district in your board tenure that have been the greatest of times and sometimes the lowest of times. And you have been there through all of it with a very careful and steady and thoughtful approach as a school board member. Being a school board member, as the other 6 of folks can attest to, is not a glamorous position, but you have served this community well. You have served us through, again, some of those lowest of times, all the way to the passing of a bond referendum for a new high school. And those are things that you will be remembered for, and you will be part of the commemoration as we move forward and move into that new building. So Christina, from a superintendent perspective, thank you for believing in me. And also thank you for the service that you have provided the thousands and thousands of students that have been here while you have served in this capacity, as well as over 1,000 staff members. Thank you, Christina, on behalf of myself and our staff.
Christina, with that, any
Y'all are
thoughts
gonna make
that
me
you would
cry.
like to share?
I just want to say it has been an absolute privilege to serve on the board for the last 4 years. I wouldn't have made it through day 1 without Tim driving me through a blizzard, because I would not have made it. So thankfully, that was a great way to get things started. And it has been such a learning experience, and I have learned something from each and every one of you. It has been an honor to serve, and I'm kind of sad that this is my last meeting. I don't know what I'm going to do on Mondays. Thank you all so very much.
Christina, thank you. And there are probably a couple of items that Sarah will need to collect from you. And when you do stop by, there's a nice little parting gift from the school district that is the customary gift for an outgoing school board member. And it'll be with Sarah. You can pick that up at your leisure. Thanks.
Thank you.
As we continue to move on, item B here is the administrative report. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad for any comments or thoughts.
Thank you. Mask and headphones gets a little bit tricky once in a while, but I'm getting the hang of it. So yes, I would like to provide you some updates. The first of which in general is I always, and at least for the last, I believe about 6 months, have provided you a COVID update as to where we're at in the district as well as the county. I can tell you that I'll give you the update as of last Thursday is when the Department of Health released their latest information. And one thing I would just call to your attention that there's a 2-week lag on all of this data, because the data reported last Thursday was actually 11 up through the 28th of November. And at that time in Steele County, we had 157.32 cases per 10,000. I would quickly call you back to about 3 or 4 months ago when we were challenged at thinking that we might be close to 30 cases in Steele County, and now we're up over 150. The good news is that the latest case count coming back to us is going to dive under 100, we think, as we move forward into the next couple of weeks. We believe that, in fact, Amy Kieran today in our Steele County Public Health Partnership meeting told us that we believe we have seen the worst of what could have been the Thanksgiving surge here in Steele County, and we're starting to see the cases go down. In fact, I rejoiced in my office this afternoon when I read the results of yesterday's case count. It's the first time we've been under 10 cases in Steele County in 27 days. So again, it was good news for us, and that bodes well. One of the other pieces is our COVID tracker. And as you can imagine, leading up to the time when we made a decision to move to full-time distance learning again for all students, one of our greatest concerns was the staffing rate and staff available. At some points, we were approaching over 50 staff that were out, either quarantined or isolated because of COVID-19. Since that time, we're recovering nicely, and we do see that we are our staffing, as well as our social distancing and masking mitigation, which still puts us on target for a return with students on Monday, January 11th, which will be right after the new year. We're hopeful that that week cushion in between the new year will provide for some additional recovery from any leftover Christmas and or New Year's surges that we might see in our area. Again, on January 11th, it would be our hope to return our elementary students to our E5 students to an all in-person model. Using the mitigation strategies that we had used earlier this year, but still having all day, every day school for elementary age students. And then we would look to have our secondary students return to hybrid, meaning they're in the 2-1-2 model, so back to the group 1, group 2 situation. And then, of course, as we move forward, a couple things I want to talk about, vaccinations. So I don't know if any of you yesterday were almost moved to tears seeing the semis roll out of the Pfizer plant in Michigan. That was quite momentous for me anyway. But today those shipments came in, and so Tier 1A will start receiving their vaccinations, and that includes various healthcare workers, including those that work in long-term healthcare facilities and their residents, getting the vaccines to the people that are most in need right now, that are on the front lines in the healthcare industry. It has been determined that educators are falling into Tier 1B, which puts us kind of as the next in line to receive vaccinations. And again, it will be totally voluntary vaccination for our staff. Tier 1B includes all educators and any related staff, as well as child care providers. So when speaking with Amy Kieran today about an idea as to when that vaccination might start, we were told those could start anywhere from late February into early March. There is a 28-day period between the first dose and second dose of the vaccination, which puts us on target, hopefully, to have a number of our staff fully vaccinated by mid-March, which is good news, because the more staffing that we have and the available staff means we can continue to conduct school and hopefully look at even bringing more and more students back to in-person learning, which has been our goal from day one. It's just taken us a long time to get there. But again, that's kind of where we sit with vaccinations. The last item related to COVID is activities. So I'll give you a quick update there, and then I will pause, ask if there are questions from board members. Executive Order 20-99 that Governor Walz put in effect also included all youth and high school activities, which basically put a moratorium on those until the 19th of December, which is, by the way, this Saturday. Governor Walz is believed to he'll be making an announcement, we believe, on Wednesday in regard to either extending that executive order or withdrawing the executive order or changing the dates therein. So we're waiting for some additional guidance from him before we make any final determinations in regards to activities. I will tell you that the activities directors, including Mr. Octerkirk and the other Big 9 ADs, have been working diligently to set what we believe are realistic targets for competition. So in the Big 9 conference, there have been no contests set until January 14th. which means that it gives some time. If it were delayed until, let's just say, a January 4 startup with activities, it could still have enough time between that date and the first competition to do tryouts and all of the first practices and so on and so forth. So again, we expect that we'll hear more information from Governor Walz on Wednesday, which will lead to our next step in the activities that would be available to our students and when those dates might be. So I'll pause on that and just ask if there are questions from any of the board members or student board member in regard to a COVID update.
I have a question. It's kind of related to COVID. So with classes potentially resuming January 11th, it looks like the end of the semester quarter is the 15th of that particular week. Do you have many students that potentially are changing the direction as far as, I know they had to commit for the whole semester. Do you have any that are scheduled to come in, and does that change some of the way the numbers pan out?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So we have been in contact with our families about those that were choosing to return for second semester, which begins on Wednesday, January 20th. If you remember, the way the calendar lays out is the 15th actually is the last day of second quarter and first semester. And then January 18th is a PD day for our staff, Martin Luther King holiday, which is our typical case. And then Tuesday, the 19th actually is a work day for our teachers to wrap up final quarter and grading and things like that before we would begin third quarter on Wednesday, the 20th. When we've been in contact with parents, we are seeing that a number of students, and I wouldn't say a number, I would say a number of students are coming back that we are able to take in within our system, again, are coming back to us. I met with Mr. Kath today. It appears that we have 25 to 30 high school students that were originally in distance learning that will be returning to us. And the same sentiment is true amongst our elementary buildings. There are families still choosing to engage in distance learning for the remainder of the year, but we are starting to see families migrate back to the work that we're doing in bringing our students back in person. Probably a number of factors, including just family choice involved with that. We're not seeing the regression the other way where we're seeing more families choose distance learning at this time. We're seeing it happen where more and more families are coming back. I think part of that is that even if we were to go to distance learning, anecdotal feedback from our parents has indicated that distance learning 2.0 is a much better product than the emergency learning we were doing last spring, and we would all shake our head and agree. And while I have the opportunity, I would just like to really take my hat off to Michelle Krell and her staff, as well as our teachers and other instructors that have just put in tireless effort to build a new system that is more effective than the one we had last spring. But long-winded answer, Nikki. Did you kind of get what you're looking for there?
Yes, I did. One follow-up question though. So I know at a certain point, the discussion was if the cases were above 50 or something, that the way the spacing, the number of kids per class, the 6 feet, all of that, with the number of elementary students coming back, will they still be able to remain in class if the numbers exceed like they did before?
Yeah, Michelle is actually part of the meeting. Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you might want to respond to that one as well.
Certainly. So the way we structured all of our elementary classrooms within the district are that most classes are at that 20 or under. We might have a few that are 21 or 22, but we're able to social distance to 6 feet. So we were able to go to that hybrid model and ensuring 6 feet social distancing, a strict 6 feet social distancing prior to going to distance learning. So we know that's possible. So we're actually only taking about probably around 20 or 21 students back into our regular classrooms from distance learning. So we did do a distance learning survey, contacted those families. And so we have about, as Mr. Elson said, about 20 students that are coming back to us. And then we have, I think, 2 or 3 that are going to end up going to distance learning because of a choice. But it really, we were concerned on how this, and we're pleasantly pleased that we were able to absorb those students into mostly their own classrooms. We only have a couple that were displaced into, I think one or two students that had to go to a different school other than their home school. So we're pleased at how that actually turned out for us.
Any other questions in regard to COVID? Okay, we'll keep, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah, please, Danielle.
I was one of the students coming back from doing online the first semester and going back in person the second semester. But for students deciding maybe to take all online again next semester, do you believe you would be able to provide the option like halfway through the semester, so third quarter, to be able to switch from online to in person again?
Yeah, the only challenge that we have with that, Daniela, because we want to be as flexible as we can, recognizing that things can change within kind of the family. Maybe there's a healthcare worker that's now vaccinated, you know, all of those sorts of things that could come into play. We're trying to be flexible, and we'll certainly work with an individual family on that. The biggest issue we have with it is because we've had to structure our staffing accordingly, because we have a number of students that have chosen distance learning. And so we have teachers that have been dedicated for distance learning, but we also then, if they start to come back in person, class sizes could be impacted, because we had to manipulate and maneuver some of those classes and move them around to accommodate, to make social distancing possible at our middle school and our high school. And so we're certainly willing to talk with families that want to make sort of a mid-semester switch. But again, it'll be dependent upon where we can move them. The one thing that is somewhat challenging is that it would feel like in some cases we may have to look at actually moving to a different class. So if you were taking biology, general biology as a sophomore, you may not, if you were planning on coming back, we may not be able to accommodate moving you into the exact section that you were in. We might have to move you into another section of general bio to make that work. So there are some moving parts. So the big message here is we're willing to work with families, but we also know that there are some factors that need to be considered, because it isn't just kind of a flip of the switch. We have to work through some scheduling things to maybe accommodate that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. If there aren't any other questions there, I will move forward. I got two other items to mention here. Upcoming for you on coming up on the 14th, 21st, and 28th of January, excuse me, our MSBA Leadership Conference sessions. And those sessions are typically morning. So the first session runs from 8:30 to noon, second session 9 to 12, and then the 28th is from 8 to noon. And again, those are free to you as members of the Minnesota School Board Association this year. There's no other conference fee associated with that. They're scheduled differently, so you don't have to be at all three of them. You can pick and choose the sessions you want to be part of. If you are interested in doing that, which I would encourage all board members to do, the website is the best spot for you to gather that information, as well as to register for those. And if you have any other questions, certainly you can contact myself or Sarah, and we can help you get registered for any of those events or part of those leadership conferences you'd like to be in. Next item in regard to school board is that Nikki Giesecke, one of our very own, is a candidate that is running for one of the open positions that will be elected, I think, as we get closer to right after the leadership conference. And so pay attention to that, and then we'll provide more updates as we get closer as to how you can be aware of where to go vote for that. And then the last item would be, as I just wanted to lift up to you, that last week it was announced that both Connor Ginsky and Ava Hess were honored with the Excel Award, which is offered by the State High School League. Very big honor for those students. And again, I just want to make sure that we mention that during administrative report tonight. So that's all I have. I'll take any questions that anyone might have. Thank you.
Hearing none. Daniela, you can unmute yourself one more time. Just a couple of quick things. Some insight from you as a student, how it was going with the distance learning, and if you don't mind, can you offer some perspective in terms of your decision to go back into the classroom?
Well, teachers have definitely been adapting like quickly to the changes that we've been going through. And I really appreciate how thoughtful they are of how difficult it is to take online classes. But my decision with my family, we decided to do online the first semester was due to like my family and trying to keep my sister safe. But I have not spoken with them yet about the second semester, but I'm leaning more towards going in person because I think it just might be a little bit more easier since my classes are a little bit more difficult that semester. But yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. I know that it helps us as board members to hear your perspective on that. So thank you very much. And Daniela, did you have anything else to add relative to board forum?
No, it's not. Just staying busy with homework.
Good. Keep up the good work. Amanda, I know that we are at a point where we need to do the truth and taxation. I'm going to take one more very quick item here. Next up on our agenda is the consent agenda, which is the approval of our minutes from the November 23rd meeting, as well as disbursement and personnel reports. Does anybody have any particular reason that we would need to pull any of these items out? And I don't see anything. So with that, I will then make the motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Jolene gave us the second. We have a motion and a second. Eric, I'm going to turn things over to you for a quick roll call vote.
Certainly. Mark?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Jolene?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Nikki?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
And I myself, aye. 7-0 pass.
That motion carries. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstead. We only missed it by a minute. It's 6:01. The record will reflect it. 6:01. We started our truth and taxation. I'll turn things over to Mr. Elstead for an introduction of Amanda Heilman and this very important part of our annual lineup of meeting, the truth and taxation. Are you all ready to go there?
I am. I'm struggling with the mask and the headphones and yeah. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So this is an annual thing that we will do to make sure that we are providing a very transparent way of taxation within our district. And so at this point, I would turn it over to our incredibly capable Director of Finance and Operations, Amanda Heilman. Amanda, the floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Okay.
Amanda, before we start, may I just had one other comment? I apologize while you're pulling it up. Just if there are members of the public that are listening and they want to add a question, I will be monitoring an email address, and that email address is levy@isd761.org. I'll be monitoring that during our presentation tonight, and we'll lift up any questions that we see tonight. And certainly, if the questions come in after the meeting, I'll share those with Amanda, and she will get back to the constituent that has asked a question. So thanks, Amanda. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So tonight we're here to do our truth and taxation, as we mentioned, for taxes payable in 2021. So I'm going to go through an overview of what the levy process looks like for us as a school district. I'm going to review school funding pressures that we are seeing as a school district. We'll take a look at our fiscal year 21 budget, and then we'll take a look at the 20Pay21 levy analysis. As Jeff mentioned, we will take public comment and any questions at that address of levy@isd761.org, and we'll take care of those at the end of the presentation. As you can see, there's quite a few steps in the levy process to get to where we are tonight. The step one starts with the city and county assessor really determining the market values for each parcel of property, then moves to the legislature setting the actual tax rates for those parcels of property, and then moves to the county auditor calculating the tax capacity for each parcel of property based on those tax rates. And then for the school district, really, it starts with the legislature setting the formulas for the school district levy limits. So the legislature really sets the maximum amounts of taxes that a school district can levy in every category that we have. And then the Minnesota Department of Ed takes those maximum levy amounts and calculates for each school district their levy, which is about a 40-page document with all sorts of formulas, and it's a very long document and has everything detailed out for every school district in the state. And then obviously in September, we come with a proposed levy, and we already had approved that in September. And now we're here tonight to do our public truth and taxation meeting and then to adopt the final levy. As noted in this yellow highlighted, a final levy cannot be more than the preliminary levy except for amounts approved by voters. For us, we certified, as you recall, back in September, $16.3 million, because our levy was, our operating levy was actually expiring at that time. And as you know, we passed, the voters approved a renewal of our current levy. And so that has now been added back on to the levy that you will be certifying tonight. So as we'll see later in the slides, we'll be asking you to certify an $18.2 million levy certification at this time. The levy cycle actually is quite long. For an entire levy cycle, it's usually about a 2.5-year period from start to finish. So we take a look at this levy cycle. So in January to May of 2020, there was a legislative session. After that session was over, the school district, we input everything that we can into the levy system. We come to you in September to do the preliminary levy certification, and then we go through October doing some adjustments. November, obviously this year we had the vote, and now we're here tonight to ask you to certify that levy. So once the levy is certified, the revenue is actually collected in January of 2021 through December of 2021, and actually becomes revenue for the school district starting July 1st, 2021 through June 30th. Of 2022. So as you can see, really the levy cycle doesn't end for us for this specific levy we're talking about tonight until June 30th, 2022. So as we take a look at funding education in Minnesota, the Minnesota Constitution says that the legislature is the body that shall make such provisions by taxation or otherwise to provide us with a thorough and efficient system of public schools. So as a result of this, school funding is very highly regulated. And with this, we can see that the state, obviously, as I mentioned before, they set the formulas that determines our revenue as a school district. So most revenue from the state is based on a per pupil amount. They also set the tax policies for local schools, and they also set those maximum authorized property tax limits, as I mentioned earlier as well. In addition to this, they also require school districts, as we very well know, to submit referendums for operating and capital needs to voters for approval. And with this high regulation, really there are quite a few challenges in funding that is created by this. As you can see, since 2002 to 2003 school year, the state general education revenue formula has not kept pace with inflation. And even with an increase that we were able to receive in 1920 and 2021 of around 2% for each of those years, our per pupil allowance as it sits right now of $6,567 would need to increase by another $503 or 7.7% to have kept pace with inflation since the 02-03 school year. And so for us, that equates to about a $3 million gap in funding. So as we move here on this chart, you can see that gap just continues to widen. And as we move into this next legislative session that will be setting the biennium, the 2-year budget for the state, is going to be imperative that our legislators take a look at this and to see if there's something they can do to fix this funding structure as we move forward, or this gap will continue to increase as we move forward. The other piece that we face as a school district is really the underfunding of special education services by both the state and federal government. As you can see here at the latest report that we have from MDE, our special education programs are underfunded by 40% by the state and federal government. So that equates to a shortfall of about $5,700 per student. And what that means for us as a school district is when we have that underfunding of special education costs, we have to be able to make a transfer from our regular program resources to support that gap. And right now our cross subsidy as a school district is $7 million that we're covering from our regular general sources to help cover those unfunded mandates by the state and federal government. So really the only options for school districts to combat these funding gaps are really to continue to cut their regular program budgets, which we know we have done as a school district. We cut $500,000 in the 1920 school year, we cut $2 million for the 2021 school year, and we are going to be looking at additional cuts as we move forward to the 21-22 school year as well to help balance our budgets as we move forward. And then in addition to that, school districts look to increase their referendum revenue, and most districts look at doing both of these options. And as you can see, as a result of these funding gaps, as I had mentioned, we're growing dependence on additional referendum revenue. So for 2021, all Minnesota districts average around $1,506 per pupil for their referendum operating revenue. So in Owatonna, our total referendum revenue is $1,207 per pupil. So we are a little bit under the state average. $483 of that amount is voter approved, and $724 is considered local optional revenue. And that $1,207 per pupil brings in about 12% of our total general fund operating revenue. So as we take a look at our fiscal year 21 budget, school districts by law are required to have revenues and expenditures in separate funds. So, and each of those funds has a specific purpose. So you can see here, we have multiple funds within our district. We have general fund, which is our main operating fund. We have the food service fund, community service fund, building construction, debt service, trust, and internal service fund. And as you can see here, this is the budget that we, the preliminary budget that we approved in June, or that you approved in June as a school board. So you can see each different fund that I had illustrated earlier with the revenues and expenditures, beginning and ending fund balance for each of the different funds that we have. Tonight, I'm going to focus mainly on the general fund. And as we can see for the fiscal year 21 budget, our expenditures are slated to exceed our revenues by about $1 million, bringing our fund balance to around $5.7 million at the end of fiscal year 21. And we will be coming back to the school board in February with our revised final budget. So these numbers may look a little different when we do our revised final budget in February. So as we take a look at this pie chart, you can see out of the $63 million in general fund revenue that we have, 82% of that highly regulated thing I was just talking about comes from our state sources. 12% comes from property taxes, another 3% comes from federal sources, and the other local is our interest and our activity fees that we're collecting. So 2% comes from that as far as revenue goes. And our total expenditures, as you can see, with about $64.1 million in expenditures, a majority, over 80% of our revenues comes in instructional and pupil support. An additional around 8 comes from admin and district support, and then another 11% is to operate and maintain our buildings. So now we're going to review the actual taxes payable that we're asking you to certify here tonight. As you can see, our overall levy is increasing by 1.54%. It was 17.9 and 19 pay 20. We're asking you to certify 18.2 million tonight here. So an increase of around $276,326 or 1.54%. And as we take a look at the general fund levy limitation, we can see that that is increasing by $909,787, so 11.7% for the general fund portion. And I'll go through the main increases here on the next couple of slides with a couple key components. We see the total referendum market value here increasing, as well as our LTFM increasing. So as we take a look at that operating referendum, local optional, and equity revenue, that's increasing by $199,852. We use these funds for general operating expenses. So there was no change in authorized levy per pupil, as we just had the main renewal on our operating levy. But with this specific revenue, these revenues are partially funded through state equalization aid. So when we take a look at the total property valuation for our school district, or the total tax capacity, when that is increasing, it actually results in a reduction in aid from the state, and then an offsetting increase in the local levy. So as our valuation increased this year, we see an offsetting increase in our local levy, and that's why we see that going up by $199,852. Our long-term facility maintenance revenue is going up $723,378. And this is mainly due to, as part of our 10-year budget that was approved with the June preliminary budget, the Pay 2021 levy actually includes an HVAC project for both Washington and Lincoln. And that's a majority of the increase for the long-term facility maintenance revenue that you see here. So this revenue is mainly based on our per pupil amount, and is actually adjusted over a 3-year period of time. So as we have projects that are happening and those expenditures continue to come in, they're matched up with the revenue and expenditures for those years. So we continue to see adjustments for a 3-year period of time for LTFM. The debt service levy, as we saw before, was decreasing $627,302. And we use these funds obviously to pay our principal and interest on voter approved bonds. And if you recall, in November of 2019, when we passed our $112 million bond referendum, we had to certify before we actually issued our bonds what we thought the interest rate was going to be. So we thought at that time the interest rate was going to be around 4%. And so that is what we had certified in the Pay 20 levy for our principal and interest payments that would be in this fiscal year for 2021 school year. When we actually sold the bonds and issued them in February of 2020, the interest rates actually came in at 2.25%, which was obviously considerably lower than that projected 4%. And so as we have adjusted now for that on the Pay 2021 levy, we see that decrease coming in to reflect the interest savings that we were able to gain from getting a 2.25% interest rate. And this is just a sample of what our actual property tax statements look like as you get that in the mail. One of the main questions I always get, and I just wanted to clarify, there's 3 different sections to the property tax. So you'll have your county section, your city section, and your school district section. And under the school district, there's always 2 categories. So there's a voter approved levy, which has our operating levy and also our bonds that have been approved by the voters. And then there's the other levy category. So the other levy category includes things that are set in law by the state legislature. So all of those things that we just went over up here, like operating capital, achievement and integration, safe schools, career technical, all of those pieces are categoricals that are actually set in place in law by the state legislators. And those fall into those other levy categories that are outside of voter approved territory. There are quite a few refunds as well that are available to homeowners that have either homesteaded. There's a senior citizen deferral. I'm not going to go through each of these slides in great detail, but it is something that you should, as a taxpayer, take a look at and work with your tax professional if you have one to see if you're eligible for these credits, because you could end up getting some tax refunds as you're doing your taxes. So it's really important to look for those things as well. So as we come down to the total, we can see that our total levy authority we're asking for tonight is 18.2 million. 61% of that, 11 million of it, is voter approved with either our operating levy or our debt service. And then the other 39% or $7 million is set by state law, coming down to that $18.2 million in total. As we take a look at our certified levy history, you can see that we've been really consistent from year to year. We really try hard as a district to not increase our tax levy if we do not have to. But as you can see, these 2 gaps that we're seeing here in the 15 pay 16, that was when our first bonds passed for deferred maintenance of some of our sites. And then our second bond passed in November of 19 and came into effect for the 19 pay 20 for our new high school. So you can see those 2 years where we had bumps, but really relatively steady throughout all the rest of the years as we take a look at this chart. So that is all I have for tonight. Were there any questions, Jeff?
No, I just refreshed and I did not see any questions come in there.
Okay, are there any questions from board members or? All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Elstad, any last comments on that? The only thing that I would implore is that folks that may have a question that you're watching this after the fact, the site is monitored, and Mr. Elstad would steer the question to Amanda, whomever would be appropriate, to make sure that your question does get answered.
That's correct. We'll be monitoring that levy, and any questions that come into that website or that web address will be sent to Amanda, and she will get back to the constituents. I would also encourage, if anyone has any questions, they can also just call. I would call the 444-8600 number, and that call will be forwarded to Amanda's office so that she can answer.
Board members, anything else before we move on? Okay, hearing none, we will move on then to item 10 on our agenda tonight, which would be board action requested. And following up, it's the tax levy certification. I'm just going to dive in here. I'm going to move that the board approve the tax levy limitation and certification as was just presented. Is there a second?
Second.
We had Jolene with the second there. Let's open this up. Is there any further discussion before we move on? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion and a second. I'll turn things over to Eric for the roll call vote.
Okay, Mark?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Jolene?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Nikki?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
And I myself, an aye. 7-0 pass.
That motion carries. Thank you, folks. Next item on the agenda would be gifts to the district. I'm going to turn things over one more time to Mr. Elstad for gifts to the district.
Thank you. So we have 2 gifts to the district coming in from, again, our very philanthropic community here, and I was just going to toggle to them. There are the two gifts coming in. One of them is $100 from Dan Gorman to the ALC. The other gift is rather large from Lawrence Ruling. It is a gift for the new high school of $10,000. Again, these are very giving people, and I appreciate them. And these are the two gifts that I would offer up for your consideration of acceptance this evening.
Any questions for Mr. Elstad with regard to the gifts? Okay, once again, hearing none, I will then move that the board approve the resolution for acceptance of gifts as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Did you get it, Sarah?
There's Lori,
Sure.
and I didn't see who the other one was.
We'll give it to Lori, all right? We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I will turn things over to Eric for the roll call vote.
Mark,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
and I myself, an aye. 7-0 pass.
That motion carries. The next two items on the agenda are two matters that will be considered by the school board in two separate closed meetings. The first matter being considered will be closed under the Minnesota Open Meeting Law, Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.05, Subdivision 2B, that authorizes the school board to close a meeting for preliminary consideration of allegations or charges against individuals subject to its authority and pursuant to Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3B, that authorizes the school board to close a meeting for purpose of attorney-client privilege. The school board needs to close the meeting to discuss matters related to at least 3 individuals subject to its authority and potentially to meet with its attorney in a confidential setting to obtain advice regarding potential imminent legal action related to the school district's allegations and defenses related to these individuals. The second matter being considered also will be closed under the Minnesota Open Meeting Law, Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05, Subdivision 2B, that authorizes the school board to close a meeting for preliminary consideration of allegations or charges against an individual subject to its authority. The school board needs to close the meeting to discuss matters related to another individual subject to its authority other than the individuals who are the subject to the first meeting that will be closed. At this time, I'll ask Eric to introduce a motion.
I move that we adjourn into 2 separate closed sessions on the statutory grounds just cited.
Second.
Did you get that, Sarah?
It was Lori. Lori second.
Lori made the second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any questions or further conversation before we close?
Roll call.
Okay.
Mark.
Yep.
I got a roll call to close.
Yep. We have
All right, Mark,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
and I myself, an aye. So we will end the open session.
Motion. Okay. With that, the open meeting is now closed, and those that are watching online are fully welcome to stay online and continue to watch the live stream remotely. When that closed sessions have concluded, school board members will resume their access to the live stream, and we will continue then the open meeting. So with that, I am going to pause for a moment so I can open up the closed meeting.
All members have to leave the other meeting.
Yes, all board members will be.
All board members got to leave the Zoom meeting.
And go to the other.
Do you want to do that instruction?
It does appear that, can you pull down the slide for just a second? It appears to me that the school board members have. Okay, so Nikki, you'll close out of the Zoom meeting now, and then you'll re-enter it after we get done with our closed meetings. And Daniela, you can certainly stay on if you would like. So I'm going to leave. Let me count. Somebody tell me how.
We have 8, hang on. Let's see, we have Mark, Tim, Nikki, Christina, Lori, Jelaine, Eric, and Jeff. 1, 2. We're all on here except Daniela.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, please. Okay. I don't believe I'm muted. I think you guys can hear me. So it is.
I make a motion to go back into the open session.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to return to the open regular meeting. Eric, I'll have you do a roll call vote.
Yep. Mark, Lori,
Aye.
Jelaine,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
and I myself's an aye. So 7 will pass the restart.
Okay, that motion carries. Okay, the next item on the agenda is consideration of a personnel action. All of the school board members have had an opportunity to read and consider a resolution. I will make the motion that the board approve a resolution for the termination of a school district employee. Is there a second?
Second.
Jolene. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask Eric to do the roll call vote.
Mark,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
and I myself's an aye. So 7 will pass.
The motion carries. That resolution has now passed. I will make a motion then that we adjourn our meeting.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eric, one last time for the roll call vote, please.
Yep. Mark, Lori,
Aye.
Jolene,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Nikki,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
and I myself's an aye. So 7 will pass the end of the session.
Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, long meeting. Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience through all of this. Everyone have a good night.
Good night.
Night.